Dude, I wore a crazy shirt because that's how we met.
Oh man,
Thought you were gonna wear something crazy too.
well, I was planning on it, but I'm just like I'm in my work attire. I thought about bringing the whole FKT
Yeah.
uniform out, um, but yeah, like it's been growing too. My friends just sent me some really killer socks, so just gonna have to wear them out.
Yeah, you should have had like your backpack and your shoes on one side. You should have had a whole thing.
I know, man. We're getting it together.
Word. Yeah, I wanted to kind of briefly touch on how we met. We were both inconveniently in Buena Vista, and we were in the same rafting group. And again, talking about this crazy shirt, like I was on mushrooms, and I walked over to this guy, Johnathan Thomas. That's who we've got live right now, or not live, but pre-recorded. And yeah, I walked over. I was like, dude, sweet shirt and sunglasses. And found out that both of us went to LSU together. He was,
Yeah,
yeah, go Tigers. He was, got the hat, got the, well, you can't see it up there. That's on another camera angle, but got the LSU flag.
no, yeah.
Um, yeah, he ran cross country and track at LSU, and I played soccer at LSU, and we didn't even know each other until this past year. So
How it works, man. I miss some people that I'm like super close friends with now who we went through LSU around the same time. So,
right.
but yeah, that was my birthday. That was 33 on the 3rd.
Nice.
Did I meet you? I met you during the Colorado Trail, or it was my birthday?
It was somewhere in August, and you had run from Copper Mountain to Buena Vista or something like that.
It wasn't my birthday. That was during the Colorado Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was
Yeah.
yeah. Oh man, what a day! That was cool getting back there because I was there on my birthday, and like just like I don't know, it's a long, sometimes lonely trail. There were a lot of people on the Colorado Trail this summer,
Yeah.
but it's cool to see familiar faces no matter where.
Well, you told me you had like woke up at 3 a.m. and then you
Yeah,
were on the the river at noon. That was a wild
yeah,
trip.
yeah, Browns Canyon National Monument represent.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to kind of tell him the backstory a little bit of how I met you, but the reason why you're essentially on here is to tell us about what is the FKT and what is the PCT, because you are apparently the fastest man on Earth to complete the Pacific Coast Trail. So tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about that.
definitely one of the faster ones, but fastest for the Washington portion of the PCT. The PCT is the Pacific Crest Trail. It's a 2,653-mile long trail that goes along the crest of California, Oregon, and Washington from the Mexican border to the Canadian border, which I hiked last year. And along the way, I discovered what an FKT was myself, which is the fastest known time. It's kind of a cool take on run racing, sort of, where there isn't really anyone else around. You're just kind of like going against like previously verified fastest time across a particular path. So I met somebody who was training to attempt the fastest known time for the whole Pacific Crest Trail this past year before COVID, and that's how I learned about that. And I guess planted the seed of this crazy idea that I came up with to attempt the self-supported fastest known time across the Oregon portion of the Pacific Crest Trail while I was hiking it last year, which was very educational, but also in the end, total failure. Um, in the sense of like getting that record, but I like to think that you win and learn, you never lose, and I took away some lessons. It was a hard lesson because in the end, I felt like maybe I'll never attempt FKT again because it was actually that hard. The Oregon session of the PCT is 455 miles, and I think it was like right under 7 days or something.
Holy cow.
For the record, yeah, it was like a 56-mile average day. It's less climbing than Washington, but I did like a 45-mile day on the first day, then like an 85-mile day on the second day, and ended up messing up my whole sleep schedule and kind of living like a vampire for the next few days. And realized immediately, like from that, like that's just not the way to do it. And then, when I met you on the Colorado Trail, that was the middle of my training for this reattempt for that same section, which turned out that I had to switch from Oregon to Washington. But like part of my training on the Colorado Trail when we met was going into it like to do like 50-mile days in the daylight so that I could sleep like a normal person or whatever that means.
Yeah, right.
But that was achieved. I got better at managing those miles at like 10 to 13,000 feet along the Colorado Trail with a lot more gain and elevation than I would face in Oregon or even Washington. And trying to do those back to back as well was the other main goal of the Colorado Trail. So do a 50 in the daylight, sleep like a normal person, wake up at sunrise and do 50 again.
What's the pace at that rate? 50 miles, man. That sounds horrible for me, but yeah.
My stuff is on Strava from the Washington FKT, but I bounce between like 13 or 15 hours for 50 miles. I think it's somewhere around like 4.5 miles an hour or something like that. 4 miles an hour is a 15-minute mile. I think that's about what I averaged for my last day, which was on the FKT this past year in Washington. It was a 140-mile push, and I averaged about 15 minutes per mile, so about 4 miles an hour.
This isn't something that you could just start training and being the best at within a year, right? Like, you've been doing this for decades.
Yeah,
right?
Sort of. I've been running for a really long time, and honestly, hiking the PCT was like my retirement party from running. I hurt my knee and had to quit racing marathons. That my marathon career was very short, but it was great. My first marathon, I was third place overall in the Rock and Roll Marathon in New Orleans.
Wow.
Qualified for the Boston Marathon, where I ran in 2013, the year of the bombings, and finished 79th overall in that race in 2.5 hours, which would still be my current PR in the marathon. I ran about 4 more marathons before I had to have knee surgery and just basically just closed the door on running for what I thought for the rest of my life. I was grateful to even be able to ride a bike again. But this virus is over, I might race the marathon again on the street.
Dude, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
Some of the times where I see you're doing your Instagram stories when you're actually on the trail, man, it seems very uneven and rocky roads. And I mean, after you had the knee surgery, is it 100% healed now, or?
I wouldn't say it's definitely different, and it'll always be different. They just cut away some damaged cartilage in my right knee, so it makes it a little bit lighter. But it's been through a lot. It atrophied hard, and my left leg really picked up all the slack going forward from that. It's I wouldn't say it's 100%, but like hiking on the trail, on the PCT, and then even like the route that I did in Nevada and the Colorado Trail, there would be moments where I get to the top of a climb and it would just stop me in my tracks and just swell and hurt really bad for about 3 to 5 minutes and then go away. But I didn't have any of that on the Washington FKT, which was cool. It's like it feels like it's fully rehabbed in a sense that it's good. And you're right, it is rocky. It's crazy terrain. It's like really brutal. And it seems to be holding up okay.
That's
and
good.
The only thing is, it had my knees actually kept me up at night in Washington. I literally could not sleep through the night because of the pain in my knees through the night. First time I've had my knees keep me up.
Is that trail anywhere near like towns, or do you pass through stuff? Like, you're carrying a backpack, but how do you eat? What's going on in your head, man? while you're hurting and you're 500 miles deep into something like.
It was crazy, man. And I had to switch from Oregon to Washington very last minute, and the Washington PCT really only crosses a highway 5 times throughout the whole 504 miles of trail that I go through. So I buried my own food at Rainy Pass, Stevens Pass, Snoqualmie Pass, White Pass, and Trout Lake, and that's pretty much every single highway. But even some of those towns, like Trout Lake, there's a town, it's like 10 miles off the highway. I think White Pass, there's a Cracker Barrel store that actually was open and within like half a mile, and I was like my 50th mile of the day. That was like day 7. It was a 75-mile day. It was actually a crazy day, and they were open, so I got to like throw my sleeping bag into the dryer and eat fried chicken and pizza.
I was wondering if that's even good for you, man. I mean, you're burning all these fucking calories, and you need to replenish. But something like that would just be, I don't know though. The most I run is maybe 3 miles, and I'm gassed. So it's awesome to be able to interview someone that just keeps trucking. And like the fastest known time, did you beat someone? Like how bad did you beat that time? And are you going to go back and try and beat your current time?
I could definitely do faster than I did after what I did. Like I went 2 whole days straight through rain. I went 1 whole day straight through thick smoke on a forest fire.
Oh,
that
wow.
was like 2 miles of trail. So I could do better. But that's being said, I beat the old record by 30 hours.
30 hours?
Yeah.
That guy took a little too long of a snooze.
Man, I tell you what, like I think cutting out the sleep the last day and pushing like 140 miles straight to the finish. You know, like my phone had broken that morning, so it was just like, what am I gonna do? Like I don't even know really like how many more miles I have. All I have to go off of is like my memory of last looking at like the map before my phone broke. And you know, I buried my last cache at Trout Lake, 80 miles from the finish. I had my bear camp buried there, where I would bury the rest of my sleeping gear and my cooking gear and just go light to the finish. That was the only cache I went back to and picked up afterwards. So I buried a bunch of gear, but it rained for the whole 50 miles to the Trout Lake cache, and then I had 80 more miles to go or something like that.
Yeah.
The trail, like it really comes close. Snoqualmie is another town that it comes close to, and but other than that, yeah, it's really you're out there.
Just a brief, like I was on mushrooms right when I met you, but you were telling me you were accomplishing this and you were going to do this, and I came up with a new question, like what in particular inspired you to do what 99% of people don't even think about doing? I remember saying that to you, and I'm like, let's circle that back around. What continues to inspire you? I know you're doing Moab here soon, and
that's a great question. Honestly, you know, like I hiked with somebody on the PCT from Whitney to the Washington border, or the Canadian border to the northern terminus. And it was definitely somebody who, you know, I bounced these thoughts on whether or not to make this attempt. And one of the big questions to lead me to make the first attempt in Oregon while I was hiking the PCT was, if you knew that you could do something, would you do it? And so, like, in my head, I was just like, I think I can do that. And it's one of those things that you don't really know unless you go. And so I went for it. And then, like, really, like, coming back to it, though, was a hard thing because it was the hardest thing I'd ever done, you know, an 85-mile day, like, and then back-to-back stuff like that. It was crazy. And I just remember being done and being like, I'm okay never getting an FKT. Like, it's fine. People aren't supposed to do this stuff. Yeah, you know, I went through some hard stuff. You know, going back to New Orleans, it's not a trail town. So, like, moving back and adjusting to life outside of the trail where it's even less people than if I lived in a trail town to relate to the experience that I just had over, like, 5 months. It was definitely a big transition. And I was around some close friends, and over Mardi Gras last year, I lost a close friend of mine after Mardi Gras. He died on leap year last year. That anniversary's coming up, but it was like really hit me hard. And you know, one of the things that I always remember from him was something that he always told me was to fucking prove it. A lot of people talk shit.
Fucking prove it.
Fucking prove it. So
yeah,
a lot of that, I would say that run through Washington, 504 miles for the Houdat Nation.
Yes, sir.
To my friend Rand Owens, and to fucking prove it.
Yeah. On the FKT, fastest known time, what you're on Instagram as the fastest known tiger.
Yeah, it's a little shade to my boy Jeff Armeyer.
Yeah, I love that.
Who also wears the tiger drip. But where I hiked the Colorado Trail, he got the unsupported FKT for the Colorado Trail, and it was hashtagging fastest known tiger. And I don't think he really knew who I was at the time. Just letting them know there's another tiger in the woods.
For sure. What now that you have one, how many more are you gonna continue to break? I mean,
that's a good question. There's this other guy who's like he's working on 100 FKTs. It's just like some goal that he set for himself, and he's pretty damn close to getting it.
Wow.
He's in the upper 80s or 90s at this point. He might have even gotten it.
Holy shit.
I know, but I wouldn't say that I want to do that, but it is something that I've been thinking of. You know, I've got some big plans for this year, including Moab, and I've got a long trail planned as training for all of that. But if the weather's right, considering some pretty, I think, well-known FKT possibilities. Obviously, Oregon, I'm coming back for that. It's going to happen. I'm going to pick up, I think, where I left off, the Bridge of the Gods and the Columbia River, and head south like I originally intended to the California border, and take that record. But with the fire situation, it's just hard to tell if it'll be like maybe even like a whole other year before they open up that portion of the trail.
Yeah.
So putting that one on hold, I don't think it's going anywhere, and I feel pretty ready to take it when the time comes. But yeah, I would say the John Muir Trail is a pretty big one that I don't know why I'm crazy enough to consider doing that. I forgot what the record is, but it's something dumb, and it's gnarly terrain. It's like basically Mount Whitney to Half Dome along the PCT or the JMT.
I mean, I'm still, every time I talk to you, I'm blown away by these ambitions and whatnot. So I was reading something yesterday that was like, you know, any kind of pursuit takes mental and spiritual stamina. Clearly the body can handle whatever you're doing to it, which is beyond, again, 99% of what people think they're capable of. What's the mental things that you've overcome during these hikes? And
I would say, like, you know, like going through the Colorado Trail, it was cool because I told myself, like, my body, that I can do it. I can do 50 in the day, you know. But it's not the same as going out there and like not ever having an FKT. Like, you're really not, you know. It's like, well, you're really taking this thought in your head and giving yourself the confidence from like belief in yourself that you can actually achieve these goals. And yeah, it was a big mental test to really be like, okay, yeah, 50 during the day is one thing, but 50 back to back for 8 days, like you've never actually done that before. So there's a big mental component there to get over yourself and like things that have never been done before, and know that like in the end your body can do it. That being said, I went through several days of just hell in the afternoons, where like sometime in the middle of the day or late in the afternoon, like it would all catch up, and it was just like really. I mean, there was just like, you know, functions in my body that was just like a fight or flight response, which I feel like life is just like a series of just fight or flight responses that I go through. And so these were some real ones that like really like in the end brought me so much closer to my body and like the communication that I have with it, because like my body was just like, no, like, you know, the 50-mile threshold that I was going through in the early days were just like, 46, 48, 49, but it was like get to 50, and it was like such an achievement. I remember one day, I think leaving, what was that, Stevens Pass, going south from there. It was late in the afternoon, and I just like kept having to have these conversations with my body and tricking my body into like going a little bit further. It was like, all right, we won't go the whole way, you know, like we'll just go to the spot. And then at the end, it was like, yeah, fuck you, like we were going the whole way the whole time. So, but like getting there and like having that fight or flight response of my body being like, you can't even move like another 100 feet, you know, you need to find a campsite, get to sleep. And then like really breaking through that barrier that day, that was really big. And like told like my body, like, you know, we can do this, we can bend, we won't break, keep going. And
that's amazing, man. I mean, I don't know if you've seen me go into cold plunges and freezing rivers, and I try to put my body through fight or flight responses, or kind of like oh shit, like I may die, but you're actually not. It's all a mental thing. Like for you, stretching do you stretch? Because it
Oh
just
yeah,
seems like if I did 50 miles just today, I'd be sore for a week.
bro.
So
And like on the Colorado Trail, I felt so jacked. Like coming off it, I was really in the best shape of my life. I've never done altitude training, but like, you know, running 50s like at altitude at 12,000 feet, like I was shredded at the end of that.
yeah,
And so like yeah, but I was also beat up. I was beat up pretty badly. So it took like about a month to really let my body recover. And then, you know, I just destroyed it again. But like I tried to take as much care as possible going through that. You know, I had like a right ankle injury just because I feel like my knee just doesn't have the same muscle mass as my left on to my right from the surgery. So all these issues that pop up on my right leg, I'm just like, it's all because of the knee. It's just like a little bit, you know, it just like takes the beating a little bit harder. And there was like a time where like my ankle was hurting, but I would just try to be as proactive as possible throughout the day, like see a river, jump into it, and soak for a few minutes, and stretch my legs as best as I could,
yeah,
and do whatever I could to really take care of myself. But there was definitely parts where it's just like, man, this ankle is like starting to get serious. Is it going to hold up? And you know, just start that little like that self-talk, and push through. In the end, I ended up getting shin splints on the last day in my left leg, which was incredible. I haven't had shin splints in so long.
yeah. I remember those back in the soccer days. Those are tough.
I mean, something that you can run through, and at that point, I was just like, dog, we're like 120 miles into a 140-mile day. I was just shocked that, like, you've done all this, and we got to this point before you had any issues at all. And, yeah.
You talk like I don't even know the word. It's a madman. You're just a madman. Do you have any like insight or inspirational stuff for people that, like you said, you took a month off? I injured my Achilles and I was out for 9 months, and it took me another probably 2 years to get back to full strength. But to be honest, even for me, man, I haven't gotten back on the soccer field. I don't get on a basketball court. No, no, no. I don't want to be injured that long. But it seems like for you that it's just more motivation to continue going. Like you put your body through some rigorous activity and some shit, but that just keeps you going. Some people it knocks people out, and even myself. So, you got any insight as to why you do that? What?
That's a good question. I know I've definitely had more people say that I'm crazy this year or last year than ever in life. But
I love it though. You got to keep that shit up, please.
my friend, they work with the Daily Stoic, and one of the books that I read going into this, all of these challenges, like on the Colorado Trail and the route in Nevada and the FKT this past year, The Obstacle is the Way. It's a great book.
I literally have that book, and I'm on chapter 2. So
enjoy it. It really helped me out. And it's just like this thing for life, and you know, running a lot of ways can be a metaphor for life. But yeah, just keep going, and like I don't know, it's just like created this attitude to where like, you know, when shit starts going wrong, I just smile and keep going. And you know, I had a really crazy time after I switched from Oregon to Washington, where I had to go pick up all my shit in Oregon and drive back to Washington like that night and go bury a cache and get back to Seattle like the next morning.
yeah,
And I got trapped between trees like in the Mount Adams wilderness at like 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 miles away from the PCT. So I parked the rental car and like packed my shit, put the bear can and like the bag of food in my bag, and just go run into the night and like go find the trail. And, like, come on, there's still trees like blowing down around me and stuff. It was gnarly. And like dig a hole with a pocket knife and bury my food and run back to the car. Like get back in the car, and I make it like a quarter mile down the road before I'm trapped by another tree, and I'm like 10 miles from the town.
Damn.
And this is like putting down the first cache of 5 caches, and I'm like, I still have to hike. Like I have to put all these caches down and go to Rainy Pass or Harsh Pass and get dropped off and hike 30 miles backwards just to get to the border. So it was just a funny moment where I just like realized like, man, this is this is just the start. We haven't even really even started, and it's going like this. I was like, this is exactly how this whole thing is going to go. Like, I don't know, like, in what way it's like, you know, what other obstacles could compare to this, but I know I'm going to hit them, and I hit some. But, you know, it was just a moment where, like, I had just read that book, too, and I was like, yeah, this is literally the way. So,
this is kind of maybe a personal question, but what comes to mind is, like, you know, the Super Bowl's coming up. Just like every Sunday when Saints or someone plays and someone makes a badass play, they go back to their wife, or even like college, right? Like, that guy's getting laid. Is there anything with that, you know, for your accomplishments? The real question is,
like, in that vein, like, at least on the trail, I'm just always moving.
Yeah.
And then you, Eric, and a few people, like, I mean, some people know, like, my accomplishments, but I'm a pretty niche athlete.
I don't know. My ego clearly is, you know, higher than a lot of people's just general ego. But I'm like, I did this. Come rub on me. Come love on me. that's just me, though.
Yeah, there's a lot from all over, from all the friends and homies and stuff. It was really cool going back to New Orleans. It was cool being out there at that point. Like, I had spent as long away from New Orleans this past year as I did on the PCT, and so super excited to have gotten back and see everybody, and really, like, they all pull me through. But yeah, you know, I think a lot of my homies, you know, they love me whether I'm first or last. It's one of those things, like, I'm just trying to figure out my limits, I guess. And really, man, like, you know, I said this hiking the PCT, it's just, journeys have brought me to places that I would not have seen otherwise. And, like, honestly, it's been, like, some of the best running in my life. Like, I just can't even explain how beautiful some of these places are. And
dude.
only encourage to, like, get out there.
You know, where I was kind of getting with that question is, you know, a lot of people, they want to do something for others. Like, I'm doing this podcast for myself and to give it to others. You know, your wife or your girlfriend or somebody inspires you. It's all you, man. That's where I was getting at. It's like, you don't necessarily get lonely. You don't have a girlfriend pulling you down, or a wife, like, telling you can't do that because I'm gonna miss you. That's pretty inspirational, because, again, it all comes from the self. Like, all of our happiness and all of our competition and all of our whatever we want to do comes from within. And you're definitely one of those inspirations that you don't need some outside thing to inspire you. It's all coming from your heart. So that's pretty badass.
Well, I would say too, like, my friends and family do inspire me, and I would say, like, out there on the FKT, there was parts where just, like, if it wasn't for them, I don't know that I would have made it. Like, and it does get lonely, but you know, the idea of, like, you know, getting through the hard stuff,
for sure,
sweet, sour.
What do you reward yourself with when you get done with these things?
Well, I like buried beer in my caches.
Okay, yeah. No, like, what's his face? Last year won the Super Bowl, Andy Reid, and he was like, I'm gonna get me a double cheeseburger, maybe even two. It's like, you just won the Super Bowl.
It was crazy. Like, the FKT was so weird because, like, I finished at the Bridge of the Gods, and it's just funny because, like, I crushed it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, like, there's nobody around. There's, like,
oh, man.
And I walked over to the pub, like, in Cascade Locks, and I had spent 5 days there waiting for my trail family to get together and go into Washington last year, or 2019. And so I go in there, and I recognize the bartender, and I go walk up to the bar, and she's like, "Sorry, honey, we're closed." And they make this thing called the Hiker Trash Burger, which is, like, really all I was looking forward to, like, the last day. It's, like, 2, like, personal pepperoni pizzas with, like, a double cheeseburger inside of it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's incredible. So I'm just like, that was supposed to be my reward. And then she's like, "Sorry, Hiker closed." I was like, "It's okay. Can I just get a Coca-Cola and go cry on the back patio?"
Yeah. I'd be like, "Man, you're here, and I'm here. You shouldn't be closed. I got a long story to tell you.
Yeah.
Sit down. I'll pay you extra."
Man, it was cool. I actually, like, it was just so weird because, like, I had nothing planned, and at that point, I had broken the phone on, like, all I had was the Garmin to communicate with people, but I didn't even have, like, a ride organized, basically, from Cascade Locks. I was just, like, out there and ran into, like, these people overheard me at the bar and, like, ended up giving me a pizza, their whole pizza, and, like, they brought me home. They had like this like house with the hot tub on the deck, like on the Columbia River. They're just like, come like take a shower and clean all your shit. You're staying with us.
Nice.
Like basically like get in the car, and then they drove me back to Seattle. It was really cool.
So you have a plan, right? You lay out a plan. This is the cache. This is whatever. But like, if you want to break that plan, you can keep going. But right? You stick to the plan.
Yeah, no, it was like pretty much hard 50s was the plan, and except for logistically, it just worked out that like my first cache at Rainy Pass was 63 miles from the start, so it was cool. Like I banked 13 miles on the first day, like out of necessity almost. Man, I started at midnight, so midnight to sunset. You know, I went from the northern terminus to Rainy Pass. I buried my cache, popped my sleeping pad.
Oh no.
That was the beginning of just terrible sleep for the whole week. Yeah,
I know how that feels, man. My birthday party this year, we had like 25 people out in Buena Vista, and my pad pops on the first night. Some bullshit.
It sucks, but you know, in the end, it's like probably kept me up earlier than anything. So I had some early days, and yeah, I got after it pretty early. But like after that, you know, I did like a 46 into a fire the next day, and lost like 4 miles. But I'm still up 9 miles. You know, every day I hit the record, tied the record like early afternoon, and then I would just bank all those miles back again.
Yeah.
And I kept doing that until it became time to cut that out, and I really like it was just like it was time to really break this record.
Yeah.
And it like all coincided with some crazy shit. You know, like I had the ankle thing going on like day 6 or 7, I think, and just talked myself through it. I was like, today's going to be a big day. You know, I had to get to White Pass anyway because like the highway was closed on both sides because of fire. So just like, is this gonna, you know, and is this trail gonna get shut down before I get to my cache? And I got there like as it rained, like 50 miles into like day 7, I think, and like that was oh man, like probably like around like 3 p.m. I had already hit 50 miles. And so ran in, dried my clothes, like had a little 30-minute thing at that Cracker Barrel, and then went into Goat Rocks, which is crazy. I had climbed Mount Rainier before starting all this, which was a great experience. But you can see Goat Rocks from Rainier. This has been the best view that I've ever gotten from it because on 2019 on the PCT, it was snowing. And then this year on the FKT, it was raining, and it was midnight. So about 25 miles to Goat Rocks from White Pass. And man, my headlamp went dim like as I hit like 100 feet of old snow. And you're on a ridge, so it's like 2,000 feet drop on both sides of you. You're really walking like this nice edge. It's a really gnarly, one of the prettiest parts of the trail, but it was a dangerous
sketch. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hike with poles. I didn't have micro spikes, and I ended up using a pocket knife as a self-arrest tool to traverse the snow. This is like after midnight while it's misting, like really up there. If you go Google Goat Rock after this, you can see where I was at.
Yeah.
It was gnarly. So yeah, I got in. Like I was so amped on adrenaline. I had lost the trail twice. Like after that, and was just really up at like 2 a.m. I was like, do I even stop and sleep? And at that point, I'm 140 miles away from the finish, and I was just like, no, it's just like try to get some rest, try to make an A-frame out of my emergency blankets and bivy, like, you know, underneath the blanket, and everything. I was soaking wet. It was just a terrible start to a day, but it would be, you know, the last time I slept. And I was just like, at that point, like it was raining so bad. Every weather report that I ran just lied to me. Said like the rain was going to stop up ahead, when in fact it just rained until I got to the last cache.
The rain was following you.
What's that?
The rain was following you.
Oh, dude, it was like, you know, and I had already had enough bad experiences in Washington, Michigan, PCT. I knew what I was getting myself into by even deciding to attempt anything in Washington because this shit's real. I mean, aside from the terrain, it's like some very volatile weather that, you don't want to play around with. But I got about really like kind of scared for my life that night. But it was a 75-mile day. I just banked a bunch of miles on top of like my average, and I had 140 miles to go. And I broke my phone first thing the next morning, so I was just like, yeah, this is it. I'm done sleeping. And like it was so miserable in the rain, it's like it's time to get out of here.
See, well, that's where I was going with it. You're a planner, but then once you hit the end, it's like there's no plan whatsoever.
Which is nice,
and I'll figure it out.
At the front, because like you can't make up lost sleep in the front. The sleep is very important, even if it was tireless sleep. But that's what I learned from the Oregon attempt, was that like I need to like have structure and have like regular days as much as possible. And then when you get so far out, it's just like go to the end of your rope and start swinging.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. I was just like, yeah, this is the gloves are off. This is race time now, and it's super delirious. I've never been so delirious, and I've never hallucinated from running before. But
yeah. Whoa, dude. I don't even know if that's like sheer exhaustion or it's not dementia. What's it called? Delirium. Just like literally a walking zombie.
Yeah. No, it was crazy. I hadn't seen people for 3 days at that point. Because of COVID, there were less people on the PCT anyway. And then there was a point where I was so far south, like if somebody was on the Washington portion of the PCT, you're running really late and you're in some trouble. Yeah. You're going to have to run after me to beat the snow. But and then plus the rain, it was like 3 days of not seeing a soul on the trail. So I started hearing people that just weren't there.
Oh, shit.
Like, no, you dummy, that's not what you're looking at. It's that. And then you get closer, it's like, it wasn't even the second thing I thought it was. It was something completely different. And,
whoa.
like, at one point I just had to quit looking at stuff because, like, even when I looked at the ground, I started seeing, like, these cartoon characters.
I've been there before, man. I'm not going to go into my story because that's irrelevant, but I hear you.
Yeah. For no psychedelics around, it was a pretty psychedelic time.
Yeah. Well, dude, congrats, man. I appreciate you coming on here and look forward to all the rest of the stories that or the rest of the fastest known times you're going to kill and destroy. And that's really cool. What do you suggest everybody do daily or weekly? Is there anything that you do or?
What are you saying, like from a training aspect?
Anything. That's just a broad question. Brush your teeth, hydrate.
We're not going to be here forever, so if there's something that you think you might want to do one day, do it sooner than later because we're not going to be around. And that's what, don't be afraid to scare the shit out of yourself. This year, I'm excited. I'm planning a pretty long trip along the Great Divide Trail, from the northern terminus of the Great Divide Trail to the northern terminus of the Continental Divide Trail. So 700 miles in Canada to Glacier National Park and the American border, and then I'll continue from there 3,100 miles to Mexico.
So 4,000 miles.
Yeah, pretty much. When I'm going to ski several hundred miles to start through, avalanche zones, river crossings, grizzly territory.
This is all just with the Tiger backpack?
I'm picking up Joe Exotic, the Tiger backpack. I'm picking it up right before I go to Glacier. So I need to get like something that I can carry like a little bit stronger and a little bit more because it's going to be heavy gear carry. I got crampons for my boots and for my skis and skins and all this shit that, like this is going to be a first, but it's an adventure that without a doubt, like kind of like scares the shit out of me, but like I'm excited about it. I'm going to get to go to some beautiful places at a time of the year that most people stay away from, maybe with good reason, but I'm excited for the adventure and to get to Mexico. But yes, the plan get done by September and give me a month off before Moab. And then we got like some special stuff planned for Cerro Gordo in October, and then after that, if there's time, I'm planning on some sort of FKT.
Cerro Gordo, I looked up. I watched like the first 2 episodes yesterday. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get in touch with him as well. But we'll have another one after your Continental Divide Trail. We'll come back around and see how that one was.
I'm gonna document all that too. It's gonna be great. But
Well, how do people follow you and the Garmin thing, the Instagram?
Yeah, Johnathan Thomas on Instagram. Just started a YouTube channel. The Trail is Where I Walk, no spaces. So check that out. That's where all the hiking content's going to live. I'm finishing up videos now for basically the build out that we kind of recap with the Colorado Trail and the route in Nevada and everything leading up to reattempting the FKT. So that video is coming out soon, along with the recap video from the FKT.
Oh yeah.
So sometime in the next couple weeks, keep an eye out for that. But those are the main ones. I've got some other accounts that kind of just promote, personal website.
As long as they go to it, they'll be able to link up that way. Yeah.
Everything's there. But yeah, that's it, man.
Cool, dude. Well, it's good catching up with you.
Man, Eric, it's good catching up with you too, man.
Good luck with everything, and I'll talk to you very soon, man.
Yeah, you make it out to Mammoth, come ski.
Yes. I might have to think about that. Like, actually think about it. Like, I want to go to California very soon to to surf, but why not go before the surf days?
Yeah, shit. Good. I saw somebody surfing on Lake Tahoe yesterday.
Yesterday? In the wintertime?
Yeah, it was Jeremy Jones. So.
Oh, was it? Gotta reach out to that guy to try to interview him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he never got back to me.
What a bum.
Yeah, what a bum. He's too busy doing rad shit like the rest of us.
Yeah, I saw he was doing some real cool stuff, just driving business into to local stores with his snowboards.
Well, I'm really upset that we're not doing like a 3-hour podcast because I've got tons of questions, but you know how that works.
Yeah, I got tons more stories too.
I know.
Yeah, keep an eye out for the video on YouTube. I'm gonna put it out soon.
And I'll put that in the link for all my followers. Go check that out. And shit, maybe we just need to do a 2 and a 3-part series.
For sure, man. I'll send you the link to the video whenever it's done too. I'll probably give you some more questions.
Sounds good, homie.